Hello, this is Victor, and in that next video I want to talk about what are the colors that I use most and I consider that are almost imprescindible in a collection when I'm painting. So colors that I feel that I need to be able to do my paint job, and yeah, and some of them of course will depend on the color that you are doing painting on your miniatures, but in the next video I want to show with you what are maybe the top 10 or the most used colors by myself. And I will start first with the Citadel washes. I have the feeling the Citadel washes are the best way to do the shading. They work perfectly, and I have the full range of Citadel washes, and I have it them from the beginning. I'm very happy and I use them all. Of course, there are 3 winners on the Citadel washes, and there is one that is winning overall. Aquax Airshade is the wash that I use most, and now I see that is just this height on this level. Most likely I will start looking to buy another pot. I always want to have at least one full pot because it's a color that I use almost in any miniature. The only exception is going to be are the Arlequins that I use less, but even in the Arlequins, in some gold or in some parts I use it. What the colors I shade with Aquax Airshade? I shade a lot reds. You can use on oranges, and of course you use on browns. You can use Aquax Airshade to make metals to look more old, and yeah, it's a color for me. It's like the Joker in a deck, so it helps a lot. Then in a certain degree, Seraphim Sepia is working quite well also for me. This is more when you want to work with light colors, with yellow, with light browns. It's also working pretty well. And then Noon Oil is the wash I use most for. This is also Seraphim Sepia on golds. And then Noon Oil, I'll use it a lot on metallics. So if you use make an armor, you can paint with a very bright silver, and then you use a Noon Oil and you have all the shading done. What I like a lot the washes is because when you apply the washes you can see very easily all the detail, and it's helping a lot to do the paint job. Of course I have other washes. This one Cassandra Yellow. Normally when you apply washes you have to think, for example, Cassandra Yellow is a yellow wash, almost orange, works very well on very light yellow, but if you have a dark one, it's not working that well. So you have to understand how to apply the washes, but once you start using them, you can use to modify the colors and to have a very nice shading. Here an example. This piece of cloth. Now I will do a Noon Oil wash, and then I will have the shading done. Later on I will explain how to clean a wash because it's also important. So washes, and these 3 are the most used by me. Then the next paints that I use a lot and I like a lot from Citadel are the base paints. And I will start first Abaddon Black. I always have, you see, Abaddon Black is key paint for me, and this is a layer, but I use more white scar. Normally I use more white scar than the, I cannot find now the one that there is also, yeah, than ceramic white. I like more white scar, but I have both. Then if we go for light colors, if I want to paint white, one color that is for me very useful to paint white is Rackar Flesh. Rackar Flesh is a base that works very well on top of black. It's covering quite well, so, and it's a great base to paint later on white scar. So this Rackar Flesh I used to have, or use Rackar Flesh, or use one of the Screaming Skull or Usbati Bone. These 2 colors also work quite well on top of black. Okay, and I have them both. So if you're painting reds, I think I will always start with Corn Red. Corn Red, if you go for reds, oranges, is a good starting point. from red is another color. The other colors will depend a lot on what you paint, but you will always need Abaddon Black and White Scar or Racker Flesh. Racker Flesh is also can be used, or White Scar most likely. You can make a white. In the past, when yellows have been always very difficult, and now we have Aberland sensitive to yellows. This works quite very well, but you have to be careful to thin it down, and most likely you will need 2 layers. But in the past, when this base was not existing and yellows was almost more difficult than today, I was using white. I was applying white, or I was applying a bone color before applying yellow, because these colors cover better on top of dark. So yeah, these are some of the winners, and then I use a lot the base colors. The base colors work very well to start the paint jobs. So I'm user of Citadel colors. I know that a lot of people don't like Citadel, but 99% of my jobs are based on Citadel colors. I have some Vallejo, but very little things on Vallejo. For example, in red, what I was saying, Carol's Book Crimson is a red shading, but it's not for red. This is for pink. I use, for example, this for pink. You always have to go to darker colors when you do the washes. So yeah, I don't want to deviate. Washes, base colors, black and white are very important. Things that I like a lot, and I start using more recently, and I will always recommend to everybody, are the technical paints from Citadel. If you want to do blood for the blood god, give a very nice result. I will suggest to mix with a little bit of black to make it darker in some cases, and even most of the cases thin it down to make the blood more translucent. Corrosion Typhus. Before, for me, was quite difficult to make rust metal. With Typhus Corrosion plus Riza Rust, it's super easy to make rust effects. And on top of that, you have the Nihilat Oxide. I have to say that I didn't use a lot this one, but these 4 technical paints are very good. If you are more on Nurgle Rot is also very interesting. And then I like to use a lot powders, and I will recommend to have always a dark. I like more the dark powders than the light ones. I recommend you to have some dark powders to do dirtiness on the miniatures. If you want to simulate dirt on the miniatures, I will always recommend to have powder, because they have a more matte finishing. So I have the powders from Forge Wall. I have, I think, the full collection, but the ones I use more, Black Shot to make burn, and then Dry Matte that is quite dark. So I use the dark ones. You can use Dry or Fresh Matte. They are very dark and they work very well. So these are the things that I use more. So if we summarize, first the washes, and in the washes Agax Earthshade is the champion. Bases of course, and you need always black and white there, and Racker Flesh is also a color that I use a lot. Then the other colors will depend a lot on what color you want to paint, but I will always recommend that you start with a base, especially if you use black priming. Then the next things, technical paints, if you want to do rust effects of blood, and if you want to do some weathering, powders are great to do weathering. So these are some of my paints, some of the things that I use. Yeah, if you have more questions, don't hesitate to make me the questions, and I will try to answer as soon as possible, and I will try to cover them as the best I can in my channel. So yeah, this was coming from a question, and I decided that maybe it's worth to share with you what are the main paints. I have almost, over time I was collecting the full collection, but I will say each time for example, the other paints I was forgetting, paints that are not in the catalog of, or are not in the shops, but are in the catalog of Games Workshop. The H paints. The H paints give very nice light and vibrant colors, and I love them. I use them. So these three colors I'm using a lot for colors. Sorry, I'm using a lot now when painting the Harlequins. This yellow is. These colors cover quite well, and I think they are quite good, especially when you want to do edge highlighting. I think they are the same tone, they are the same color, because they have the pink also. They are the same as the dry, but they are less thick, much less thick. Anyway, I will always recommend these edge paints are quite thick, and I will recommend you to thin it down. What I don't use a lot are the dry paints. I have some of them, but I don't use them a lot. The dry paints, I use them basically to do the bases. So this thing is done, all the rocks are done with dry paints. But I'm not fan of these paints, because I think they give too much texture. They are not smooth enough, and I prefer to do dry brush with the smoother paints. And to be fair with you, normally I do very little dry brush. I mainly use dry brush technique on rocks or things that have a lot of texture, and I try to avoid the dry paints because they are too dry and they give like a powder effect, and I don't like it I don't like it a lot. I prefer to use standard paints to do my dry brush. So this is the only thing that from Games Workshop I will never use, or use very little. I only use dry paints to do terrain, or to do rocks, or to do the bases, because there I want really a rough texture. But if you, for painting miniatures, I prefer to use H paints, base colors, and the layers. And to be fair, there are some bases that cover, base paints that cover very well on top of black, and there are layers that don't need the help of the base, and you have to test and to investigate, because I cannot know them all by heart, and will be a very long video to explain when I can use directly the layer and when I can use and when it's better to use a base. For course, examples in yellow and reds, always use the base as a starting point. It helps a lot. On gold, use this base before applying gold. This is also for me one of the most important colors, XV88. And yeah, and this is what I want to explain. You also can, this is another color that is a very good base. The Balthasar Gold is covering very well on black. So yeah, and this is what I want to share. And that's all for this video. So let me know if you have more questions. I hope if you find this type of videos useful. And yeah, and I'm open to answer any question that you have. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you again later. Bye.